So I was going to do a video today on like careers, how we can kind of maybe find a new career for ourselves once we kind of spiritually awaken. Um, but I've had several questions and requests to do things based off of yesterday's video on you're not doing the dark night of the soul wrong, um, which is understandable. It was quite a deep video, and so I think this one's probably going to go deep as well. And I'm going to have to try and slow down a little bit on this one because I really want to try and get across and explain or answer these questions as best as I can. But where we're talking about consciousness and what that feels like, that it can't ultimately be answered. It's just something that when you feel that, you kind of know that life just kind of feels different. There's a life there without the thoughts and without the thinking, and that is a lovely place for anybody to be in, for anybody to find. And it's that I'm trying to point towards, if you like, of where to go, the things to maybe do to try and attain that. But saying that, there is nothing to attain. It's already in us. But this is where the confusion lies between consciousness and the mind. The mind needs words in order to understand stuff. In order to understand, it needs to visualize. It needs words to try and understand it. There's 26 letters in the alphabet. There's not enough words to explain consciousness and how the mind is within consciousness. One of the questions that this person wanted, this is one of the people I should say, that wanted answer was what is surrendering? How can you surrender but take action? If surrendering is to be still and not have the thoughts, how can you then take action? Which is a wonderful question, but it's really one that's quite simple. Because let's say if you're a runner and you want to run your marathon and you contact someone who's run lots of marathons, no matter how much that person telling you how to run the marathon, how to eat correctly, what training to do, no matter how much of that you consume, watch, read, meditate on, whatever you're doing, unless you go and do that, unless you go and do the exercise, you will not be able to run that marathon in the time that you want to. It actually takes action to go and get fit. Now, I use that scenario because that might sum up what it is about the consciousness. If we're trying to find that consciousness feeling as such, and forget I have to use words, so we can interpret these in different ways. And so I try and give over a message as simplified as I possibly can do with my limited vocabulary. But in our search, again, that's another word, in our search for consciousness, we can consume all the videos we want. We can read about it as much as we want. We can think we're sitting in silence as much as we want. But whilst we're not doing the actions, if you like, of going out, being on your own, finding that time. If you've got a busy family life and a busy job, then you'll have to walk at 2 a.m. You'll have to, this is what the action means. There needs to be action on that. The time needs to be done. And that might sound really unjust and unfair that you'd have to walk at 2 a.m. That might be a slight exaggeration, guys, but I'm trying to show that it does take some commitment to do that. Eat the right foods. If you're consuming nothing but junk food because you're feeling rough and shitty and down and depressed in the dark night of the soul, and you're wondering what's going on with your life, and you haven't got the energy to go and walk in nature to try and find yourself, you haven't got the energy for that, and you get by you go into work, so you're dipping your foot in the matrix, and by the time you get home you haven't got the energy to give yourself some time. And you haven't got the energy because the whole day has been spent acting as someone else. So it's not just tiring physically doing the actual job. It's tiring mentally because you're being the act. You're acting the story that you always tell people about you. The fictitious you, the mind-made self. By the time you get home, you're exhausted. So you just have a quick piece of junk food to settle down and watch telly so that you can quickly relax before you go to bed. where then you lie down in bed and think, oh, at last, now I can relax. So you scroll and then you consume content. And it might even be content that we might recommend to consume, spiritual type content. But the fact is, we're coming away from the stillness, from the quiet when we do that. And so we end up consuming junk food, or maybe through the daytime we're having stimulating drinks, lots of coffee or tea or whatever it is. It's, you know, this, we're distracting and we're having all these things to get us through. But what will ultimately get you to find consciousness, don't forget, guys, I have to use words. There is no finding. It's there. You're unraveling it from all of this stuff that I'm saying, all of this distracting away, the watching the films, the scrolling, the eating. That's mind-generated stuff. That is from the mind, making you comfortable, giving you some relief, giving you some, what you think is space. It's not giving you space. It's consuming you. It's drowning you. It's drowning you in what the mind wants, what the physical body actually needs. I didn't actually mean to say that, but it is true. The physical body actually needs the environment. But more to the point, the essence of the consciousness that we are in, consciousness is not in us. We are in it. That's why there's a one consciousness, and we are all in it. That's where the phrase comes from. We are all connected. We are all one. That consciousness is there. And now we've got to unravel all this mind-made junk that's on top that keeps us distracting from that. So when we say stuff like surrendering, I think yesterday's video covered the concept of what surrendering is, but that's what the action means. Don't drink all the coffees, maybe cut down on that. Encourage yourself to develop a spiritual practice. But because these things that I might suggest are physical things, yet we're trying to understand again, I have to use words, a mind concept of consciousness. We're trying to visualize and understand that, but there is no visualization of consciousness. It's there. There's no word for it. It's just there. So we're trying to visualize our mind, whatever it is in you that feels like it needs to see something, it needs to feel something, it needs to have something. That feeling is the mind. And it's that is holding us back, if you like. And the way, and this is what I'm trying to point to, and I really hope I'm not sounding patronizing. I really, really hope that, because that's not what I'm doing. I feel this is an important one, and I have to kind of try and keep my head in that space of trying to actually describe consciousness. I'm aware I don't have to do this, but this is my calling. This is my message that I want to get out. And so I can't come away from doing this. Even if I wanted to, I can't. It's there. It's what I need to be doing. That's what my consciousness is directing me to do this. So this is why I'm trying to give over, and I read all my notes all the time from my years of journaling. And I try and go back to those moments and feel how I was feeling. And I try and end that confusion for some of you guys. But the confusion will end when you understand that you will not understand consciousness. Until we grasp that, we won't surrender. And whilst we're still consuming junk food to get us through, or over going to the gym to get us through, having sex when maybe it's not the right time to have sex, all these things, they might feel a desire in the body. That desire might be something that's getting in the way of you being alone. If you can't get no alone time and stillness time, but you choose to have sex, nothing wrong with sex, I'm not saying that, guys, but you choose to have sex when you could actually be a bit on your own, that's distracting away from the part of the spiritual practices that maybe we point towards. You become what you consume, because the mind will ask you to consume what the mind wants. And so what you consume empowers the mind. Your consciousness is now not being empowered. Your consciousness will be empowered, if you like, awful word, I can't think of another one. Your consciousness will be empowered, and you're more likely to find the stillness when there's less temptation around you. So when you're out in nature, and if you live in a town that's really difficult, walk around the streets and try and block out. Use it as a practice. The commitment of surrendering. The going for the walk is the surrendering. That's part of the surrendering. So there is no great overwhelming feeling that will come. And it's only in doing those practices and doing those type of things. For some of us, it might just be a few days, and then something just kind of, we start realizing stuff. Others, that's very unlikely, by the way, but for others, more likely, it's many, many months, and sometimes it's several years. And then eventually we kind of get to a point where maybe we're just like, I can't take this anymore. I can't take any more of trying to find this feeling that these guys feel. Why can't I get it? Why am I going through this pain? Why can I not feel how they feel when they look so at peace? They look so relaxed. Why can't I feel that? It's in those moments where we stop. We get maybe so frustrated, so angry, so desperate that our mind kind of cracks, and we kind of give up the chase, if you like. We're so fed up with it, we give up the chase. There's the surrender. It's in the giving up. It's in the not doing. But to physically go to do surrendering seems... That's why I'm struggling to explain it, because it's so hard to explain. It's not a made up thing. Listen to any of the channels. No one will give you a definite answer, because there isn't one. But that it will come when you take action. And the action is the committing to what your consciousness needs, which is the time alone, find peace, eat better foods, drink plenty of water. That sounds like it's for the physical form. No, that's for your essence to come through. Because if we keep eating the junk, we're consuming stuff that is satiating, I think that's a word, is satiating or making the mind happy. It's giving in to the cravings that the mind wants. And therefore that keeps us in that loop of sluggishness. And we might not know that we feel sluggish. Some of us might feel extremely fit, but our minds might operate sluggish. And they're operating sluggish because this mind is sitting on, it's clouding the consciousness, your essence. It's clouding that from coming out, from blossoming. It's stopping that from coming out. And that's the point of when I say it's already there. It's already in us. We need to uncover, and we uncover by the not thinking. The not thinking is made a hell of a lot easier when we take action to surrender. But that doesn't mean that we sit there going, right, I'm surrendering. Come on, surrender. Let's surrender now. It's not a thing that you think, but you can change lifestyle habits. The ones that feel uncomfortable, that's the idea of being in the uncomfort zone sometimes. If you get in and you want to sit down and you've had a hard day and you feel like you want to watch a film, nothing wrong with this stuff. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you're wanting to take action on surrendering, they're the things you have to move away from. So when you're saying you haven't got time to sit down or go to the park or meditate, don't watch the film and go for the walk. Don't watch the film, go and meditate. But it's uncomfortable to do that because the mind will say, yeah, but you've had a really hard day. And the idea is that when I always do this, guys, is to show the separation period that we go through with the mind unfolding, the mind coming off of the consciousness and the consciousness coming through. But sometimes the more your consciousness, your essence wants to come through, the real you, and that might come out of you in ways such as, I'm trying to think of an example now. But a feeling that might come up in us is one of anger towards someone, towards something. It might come out in a way of anger, like, why did I do that? Why did I do that? You did it because you was fulfilling the mind, and the consciousness is aware of that. The consciousness is constantly pushing up in all of us, wanting to come out. we suppress it. We suppress the consciousness, which you could call it God. The stillness, the awareness, the presence, the one, the be in the moment. The present moment is consciousness. It's the only place it's going to be found. Because if we're not in the present moment, we're in the future, we're in the past. But we suppress the consciousness with our mind-made self. We fulfill the things that make us physically feel good. Or we think we're mentally relaxing when we're watching a film. But what we're actually doing when we're watching a film, not all the time in life, guys, not all the time in life, but sometimes when we're watching a film, we're escaping. We're escaping our feelings. And the feelings, if you're thinking, no, I don't feel anything, I'm just tired. Sit alone. When you're tired, that's what the body actually needs at those moments, is to sit alone. Let the mind, shut. The mind might not shut up, it might sit there, but it might zip off for a while. And you just sit, and after 10, 15, 20 minutes or so, it's actually not so bad sitting here. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. The mind will constantly be there nagging, yeah, but don't you want a chocolate biscuit? You better have a cup of tea soon, because you're going to bed in a minute. You better go to the gym. You better get dinner on, because she'll be home soon. You better run the bath, otherwise he'll get the hump. That's the mind, and that's where we have to learn to sit through that. And then once we start living from that place of presence, those kind of things don't become issues in life. They're not something we really consume much of. That doesn't mean we become faultless about other people. It just means it's not something that we loop in our head. Our minds are non-stop. They never, ever, ever shut up. The noise that's in there is crazy. It's phenomenal. Let me give you this little scenario. Have you ever been driving long distance in a car and it's a hot day, say, and you've been in traffic and you're stuck in traffic, you're really frustrated. It's you on your own now, and there's just lots of noise going on, and you've had the music playing, and you're getting frustrated, your arms on the window, you're like that, it's a 3-4 hour journey to wherever it is you go, and all you've got is that noise. And then you pull up in the drive, and it's dark now. You pull up in the drive, you turn the engine off, and there's that shh. That moment there, if you put your mind into that moment, as I'm speaking now, if you can put your mind into that moment, I'm sorry if I sound preachy, by the way, I'm not doing that on purpose, but it's really important. If you can put your mind, as I'm speaking, into that moment of the car, and there's all the noise going on, and you switch off the engine, and that calmness comes over us. That feeling right there that we have, ask yourself this: if you didn't have hunger to worry about, or thirst to worry about, or you didn't have to get up for a job, could you sit in that moment there forever? I could. And I don't mean that because I would have the patience. No, the feeling that's generated when that engine first goes off, that is bliss. That's a heavenly feeling. And I think we can all relate to that. But what happens when we're in that moment, despite the fact we're really enjoying it? Do we come away from that moment and go and do something? Or does the mind come in really faintly from the distance? Do you think you should have a cup of tea after that journey? Do you think you better have a bit of dinner after that? I think maybe you should run a bath. There's the mind, comes in, spoils it, spoils the moment. And we don't realise that it's spoilt the moment because we're giving in to the mind. We're giving into it, wanting to have a bath. Nothing wrong with wanting to have a bath, but I'm trying to give a concept here. So we give into it and we go and have the bath. But what would have been nicer, the bath or sitting in that moment of for as long as possible? That would have been nice if we wasn't hungry, wasn't thirsty, wasn't tired, wasn't thinking about having a bath, wasn't thinking about our partner might be indoors thinking, why are they just sitting on the driveway? If those things weren't being thought, that moment of quiet that we have for maybe 5 or 10 seconds, the mind comes in and spoils it. Another one is, I know we all know this one, when we can be sat in an office and the air conditioning's going all day, or some kind of noise is going on all day, and we're used to it, and then suddenly that noise stops. It's like oh, I didn't realise how loud that was. That's the mind. We don't know how loud it is until it goes away, until we can shut it up. And that's the idea of these videos, is trying to point in the direction of the mind is so controlling, and it's learning how to differentiate between the mind and the consciousness. I can't think of anything else to say on it there, and I don't want to become like preachy, as I said, but it's an area that I feel is really important, and I'm hoping this video can really give some of those light bulb moments that make you realise that what we give in, that's the importance of why myself, other channels, the spiritual gurus, Buddhism, Hinduism, but any religion will tell you, know thyself. Know thyself. It's actually, don't quote me on this, guys, because I'm not a religious person, but I believe that's something from the Bible, from Jesus. Know thyself. Love thyself. Just quickly, on a topic of self-love, by consuming all this junk food to try and get us through in our search, whilst we're searching to try and find this peace that we're after, bearing in mind we won't find the peace while we're consuming all this rubbish. Consumption means drinks, food, and whatever we might be consuming on here or out in here, if we're watching the news and reading newspapers all the time and being influenced and led by a world of lies. Basically, that's what the ego is. The ego's in everyone. That's what the matrix is. It's a world of lies. If we're going to keep finding comfort within the world of lies, we are never going to find that ultimate peace that keeps nagging us. And this is why we need to come away from that and go to nature. Find the time to go to nature. And like I say, if you're in a town or something, it's hard. And if you've got a family, I'm aware that's hard. So I don't say this like it's something really easy. But you will find, after a period of time, could be weeks, could be months, of doing that kind of thing and not really trying to think, not forcing anything in life. That's a valued line right there. That was something I said to myself about 2 years ago. Anything that I feel like I have got to force is not for me. And what I mean by forcing it is, if we're in a relationship, say, and we're forcing that relationship to work, we're kind of finding all the different areas that we can do to sustain it and get by. Anything that needs forcing, for me now, guys, anything that needs forcing, no, it's not in my life. And that really worked wonders for me. But by going, if you're in a town and family and stuff, it is hard to get out, but it really does. It will aid you. At first it might not, because when you're out and you're walking around, the mind will kick in saying, you shouldn't be doing this, you've got things to do, you've got stuff to do, blah, 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 blah. And there it goes, bang, noise. Yes, you might have that on your walk all the time. But after a while, the body's habitual, remember? The mind is also habitual. So after a while, it creates the space. Whoosh, the mind will create the space for you to do that. So whilst you're out doing that, you've conned the mind. Your consciousness, if you like, has conned the mind. Because it said, okay, the mind is going, okay, if this is what you're going to do, I'll just leave you alone for a little while and you can have your walk. And you'll find your thoughts get less and less and less. So you've tricked your mind into actually letting you walk. And it's in those walks where now the mind is not saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's now just there like, no, okay, I'll wait until you come back and then I'll nag you. That's what the mind's saying. So whilst you're out on your walk now, even in a town, you can walk around and find some peace, an element of quiet. You can find an element of that. It might not be overly silent. And when I say silent, I don't mean your surroundings. If you're in a town, the noise will be there, but there can be silence here. The looping may stop. The looping may calm a bit. And that is, if that's the best that you can give yourself because you've got small children or your environment depicts you to stay there, I understand that. So I'm trying to give you some little solutions or little pointers to what you could do. That's where the commitment to surrender takes place. Have I drummed to that point a little bit too much, guys? I'm really sorry if this video is patronising. I really am, but I had quite a few emails on that one, and I thought I'm going to really try and answer this. And if I end up going around the houses, then I'll go around the houses. But another question that actually got said to me was, why is God inflicting this on me? Why is God making me have all these lessons before I have to kind of find consciousness? It's the mind that is making us have the lessons. We just don't know that, because we've never known anything other than the mind. So therefore, and sometimes as well, we kind of look at God like it's a grey-haired, grey-bearded man up in the sky. It's not. God is the consciousness. God is the consciousness that we're all in. It's the ultimate creator of life. And even that's guys, that's how I see God. That's how I see that God. That's my God. That's how I perceive it. It's the consciousness. Is the thing that's in all life. Without consciousness, nothing is observed. Without consciousness, nothing is here. So therefore, that is the creator of all life. That's what I refer to, and I know many other people refer to that. That's God. There's a bigger presence than this form and the mind that comes in it. I say in it, you know what the mind and body one. But there's a bigger presence, there's a bigger essence to life than that. It runs through everything, from flowers to trees to fish to that bird flying past, to the grass, to humans, to all animals. It goes back millions upon millions upon millions of years to the first, I don't know, whatever. But consciousness is there and we are in it. And that, for me, is the God, that is life. So that is not making us pay any lessons. That is just there. It's a stillness, it's a calmness, it's the creation of everything. It's the water that the fish is in. It's the thing that we are all in. It's the thing that's given us the ability to be able to see, to observe ourselves, to observe the universe, to observe. We are observing ourselves here. And that's beautiful. That is completely beautiful. Is that a special feeling that sometimes we can feel? I know I feel that sometimes. A complete connection, a total absorption in that consciousness. Let me just tell you this. I am not, and I've said this so many times, I am not the brightest guy in the world. I am not the most articulate. I don't have a big vocabulary. I got thrown out of schools, and I have this terrible, terrible imposter of the thick child. So how am I doing these videos? How am I doing these videos using the vocabulary and maybe articulating it in a way that some of you have told me that you like? How is that possible for a guy who suffers with dyslexia, is the thick child? I can't read while I'm talking, so this is note free. That's why I always say, forgive me if I'm repeating myself or going around houses. That is dyslexia. It's a learning disability. I won't always know what I've said. I won't always know what I've covered. And sometimes I will leave bits out of videos and I won't realise that I've done that. But the point I'm trying to make there is, how can I do these videos, be comfortable enough? This is mind talk now. How could I be comfortable enough, be confident enough, be self-assured enough to be able to do these videos knowing that I could face ridicule from many, many people from doing it, including friends and family who would look at it and say, why are you talking like that, you weirdo? That is the consciousness. That is consciousness coming up, coming out. That is the presence. That is the stillness. That is the oneness. That is the God. That is the... It's the thing. It's marvelous. It's a beautiful thing. But do I need to go and get that feeling? No, it's there all the time. But at times I have to come out of that, if you like, and I will use my mind self. I will kind of wake my mind up, if you like. So I'll bring in all the stuff that sometimes, to please other people, if I'm honest, If I wanted my lifelong friends that I've had, that I've known since I was a baby, I don't want to lose contact with them. So sometimes when I want to go out with them, or they invite me out, which is very, very few and far between now, but when they do, sometimes, if I feel like it and really want to go out, I'll go out. And it's nice to see them. So I'll bring that mind-made self in. I'll bring that ego back. And then I'll go out and I'll enjoy my friends for a little while. But the whole time I'm out, that's a moment. I'm aware of those moments that I'm out. And all that means is I'm just consciously aware that I've woken my mind up, if you like. I'm fully in the mind. I'm fully in my consciousness, but understanding that I've woken my mind up so that I can have a decent night out and laugh like I used to with my friends. And then when I come home, normally on my way home, walking home, come straight back. It comes straight back into this lovely feeling of, okay, I'm back with my presence now. And yeah, that's a nice place to be. And I wish sometimes, actually, there would be more people who were spiritual, who actually tried to explain to people what it feels like. I feel like there's many of us that don't actually say what it feels like to feel that peace. Because there's no, I think that's important, to try and explain that without trying to make ourselves sound really awesome and great and special, because that's not it. Which is why I always say to people, it's in all of us, and I'm nothing remarkable. If I can do it, anyone can do it, is the point I'm trying to make. So I don't actually go anywhere to try and get that consciousness. It's something that kind of unravelled itself through the multitude of asking millions of questions from the mind, and then slowly over a period of time of meditating hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours on my own, in sparseness, in a tent. I'm aware we can't all do that. In a tent, on my own, breaking down, and then coming back up, and then breaking down, and then coming back up, until it got to a point where I was able to then really establish when the mind was working, when the mind was leading me, and when my consciousness was there. And then I reached a point where it went like that, and the mind's just come down, and then it got consciousness all the time. And but with that doesn't make me feel like I've got something special that no one else has got. It's in all of us. We just, once the mind comes off, we feel that. But is it a nice feeling? Yes, it's wonderful. My life changed. I can't tell you how my life changed over the last 3 or 4 years. Every single thing you could possibly think of in my life went. Everything. There's no exceptions to that, including family. A different type of formation of my family had to be formed. I was with 2 of them this afternoon, and I come away and really had to go and sit still somewhere for a while in quiet to come back, because I miss them. I miss feeling them and seeing them as I once used to. Now I'm getting emotional. So I miss seeing them. So I have to come back to that mind state and be there. And that's emotion, just because this is the thing where we need to try and say, there's still love there. You don't lose that for people. Your consciousness will find another way. Would I ever go back to how it was? Absolutely not a chance. I now live a life that is so congruent with me, but if anyone else was to look at it, they'd think, poor guy, he's got nothing. I have everything. And I promise you, I'm not saying that to show off, but that's what it feels like when the mind stops the looping, stops the pointless questions. Most of the stuff we're thinking about doesn't need to be thought about. It's the mind making itself relevant. It's us attaching to that mind. And we need to realise that when the mind is at play, if we can identify that and do the opposite of what the mind wants, that's where we will ultimately probably find the consciousness and the peace. And guys, like I said, I've not done a video like that one before, but I hope that really does bring something to some of you. I don't know what else to say. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I could actually say that would be of any benefit, and I really don't think there is, because I think I might lose the attention now. I can't even see 35 minutes or whatever it is. I've got a couple of things wrote down here. Let me give me 1 second and have a look. I can't read it. It's pointless. My head's not there. So, but I really hope you enjoyed that. I hope you all had a lovely weekend. I hope that clears up some of the questions for you. Tomorrow I'm going to do that video on like careers, being in a career. This is the other thing, guys, as well. When the dark night of the soul and spiritual awakening is like an overall thing, but within that there are stages that we go through, and them stages can alternate for different people at different stages, and they kind of affect us differently. So a lot of my videos occasionally might sound contradictory to another video, but whilst I'm explaining an overall dark night of the soul, that could take one vocabulary, if you like. But when I break that down into self-sabotage, that's a tiny part of the dark night of the soul, which I then delve into that. So certain parts that I might say in that, I don't actually think I've done this, but it's just a warning. But certain parts in that might seem like, oh, that contradicts what was said about that. There's different subjects, but the overall concept of dark night of the soul is the same. And I try to go into deeper depth about each one and try and explain how they feel, both so that you can understand that sometimes it's nothing great, and other times it's normal to just feel down and shitty. Other times it's normal to be really up and happy, and other times it's just, there's nothingness. Right, I'm really sorry about that, but my phone ran out of data. So it's Sunday evening. It's a really overcast day, a little bit of rain coming down. I'm now going to walk out to somewhere where I can get better reception, otherwise this won't load up tonight. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to do. But guys, I love every one of you. I hope those who are really struggling are having a decent day, and I hope that helps you, even if just you found that a bit relaxing to watch. In any way whatsoever, I just hope it helped. And for those who are kind of in a good place and whatever else, I just hope you enjoyed that. And anyway, guys, thank you so much for making this channel what it is, and thank you for always commenting and the likes and stuff. So you guys really do make me emotional sometimes. So okay, I love every one of you. Take care, guys. Peace. Oh, and don't forget, I'm available for one-to-one consultations if any of you want to talk to me. Thank you, guys.